Congratulations! Your delivery date is approaching. It has been a long journey, but you are ready to take the final steps. And here's what you should know about the birth of your surrogacy baby and your role in the event. Step 5, the delivery and bonding with your baby. Usually around week 34 of the pregnancy, we have a good indication of when the baby will arrive. Right? By this time, the estimated due date is reasonably accurate. And according to the March of Dimes, about 90% of pregnancies will arrive within a week of that due date. And when the due date approaches, the intended parents will get a call from their agent or from the surrogate herself to arrange their visit for the delivery. The baby will be born at a local hospital chosen by the surrogate's obstetrician, right? And the parents will travel to that hospital to attend the delivery and welcome their new son or daughter. But before the baby arrives, the circumstances of the delivery should be discussed and a delivery plan should be agreed on. Right, the delivery plan clarifies many details about the parent's role in the delivery. And some parents feel strongly about witnessing the birth or cutting the umbilical cord. And all elements of the delivery plan should be discussed with the surrogate and the hospital. Crucial requests in the delivery plan should be discussed early or even during the initial matching process when you first meet your surrogate. Now, bonding with your surrogacy baby. When my kids were born, I had no idea what to expect. I think most fathers worry about how they'll react to their baby and whether or not the baby is going to bond with them. And there's an entire branch of psychology that explores this phenomenon. Attachment is the psychological term referring to the bond between a parent and their child. In a typical pregnancy, the parent's attachment, right, called the prenatal attachment to the baby, begins early in the pregnancy. Right? In a surrogacy pregnancy, intended parents can only attach to the baby really after the delivery. Now, prenatal attachment is critical to the well-being of the baby as well as to the healthy development of the family. And you should give some thought to the process. As an intended parent, there are definite steps you can take from the outset to help your baby and yourselves adjust. I wish I knew 10 years ago what I know now. Attachment happens in two directions, right? The parents bond with their baby, right? The prenatal attachment. But then the baby also forms an attachment to the parents, right? Called a parent-infant attachment. And while some believe that the baby's attachment begins in utero, the process mostly starts after the birth through the interactions between the baby and the intended parents, right? The intended parents, the caregivers. Intended parents can help build the baby's attachment by being very nurturing and attentive, right? By caring for the baby's needs, the parents can begin building that bond immediately after the delivery. But the attachment of the parents to the baby is more complex, right? The parents' attachment process is not immediate, and it's not uncommon that intended parents feel a lack of connection with the baby at first. But don't worry, right? Attachment will happen. It'll happen during the initial days that you spend with your baby. And interactions at this time are really critical to the healthy emotional bond between you and the baby. In turn, that attachment, right? That attachment will form the basis of a healthy long-term emotional family relationship and the future social development of the child, right, throughout its life. A prenatal attachment is the bond that the parents form towards the baby during the pregnancy, right? In a typical pregnancy, the mother bonds with the baby through the experience of being pregnant, right? Watching the fetus grow and move and become more real. But in a surrogacy pregnancy, attachment has to happen through other means. Obviously, carrying the pregnancy certainly helps the attachment process, but prenatal attachment is not limited to the birth mother, right? Intended parents can also attach to the baby during the pregnancy. And to kickstart the prenatal attachment, the parents should be as involved as possible with the pregnancy. You can actively follow the baby's development, imagine how it will look, celebrate its milestones, and generally engage with the pregnancy. And this helps the pregnancy seem more real, and it helps the intended parents attach to the baby. That attachment process will quickly increase once the baby is born. And prenatal attachment does not directly affect the development of the fetus, but it is thought to impact the parent's ability to care for the baby, right? The attachment is responsible for the parent's sense of affection, of protection, and of nurturing for the baby. And so a healthy prenatal attachment has an important indirect effect on the baby's well-being after the birth. The prenatal attachment encourages the parents to be more attentive caregivers to the baby. The parents better respond to the baby's needs, and this encourages the attachment that the baby will later develop to the parents. Parent-infant attachment is the deep emotional connection that a baby forms with its principal caregivers, right? The intended parents. And according to attachment theory, after the birth, the baby often feels worried, right? Threatened and stressed due to the new experiences of the external world. And in response to these strange experiences, babies cry and they look for comfort and security from their caregivers as a basic survival strategy. And the way the caregiver responds to the baby's fear and stress will determine the bond between them, right? This forms the basis of the long-term relationship between the parents and the child, and possibly even the child's ability to form trusting relationships in the future. Throughout the pregnancy, the baby will naturally develop some attachment to the surrogate, right? The term transfer refers to handing the baby from the surrogate to the parents. And this includes both giving physical custody to the parents, but also the transfer of the baby's emotional attachment from the surrogate to the intended parents. The physical and emotional transfer of the baby at the hospital is the culmination of the surrogacy journey, and it is an emotional time for everyone. A successful transfer is the ultimate goal that everyone has been working towards for the past year. And some simple steps, both before and during the delivery, can help make the transfer successful. Right? Parents should check whether these are allowed by the hospital and are amenable to the surrogate. And to help facilitate the transfer of parent-infant attachment, here are a few suggestions for the surrogate during the pregnancy, right? Number one is parents can record their voices, talking or reading books to the baby, and have the surrogate play these sounds to the unborn baby. The surrogate can play some of the intended parents' favorite music, which will then be familiar to the baby once they return home. The surrogate can sleep with a teddy bear that will go home with the baby, right? So the newborn will have a familiar scent nearby when becoming accustomed to life with the intended parents. Now, during the delivery, some experts also recommend the following, right? When the baby is born, let the baby rest on the surrogate's body for a short time, right, before being handed over to the intended parents. This will help ease the baby's stress by confirming its sense of smell, touch, and hearing. Allow as much skin-on-skin contact as possible between the baby and the intended parents. This is one of the best ways to promote attachment between the baby and the new parents, and begin the process of replacing the baby's attachment with the surrogate. Let the surrogate see the family that she's helped create, right? This gives a sense of completion for the surrogate, as well as for everyone else involved in the long journey, right? The intended parents can reinforce a positive conclusion of the journey by staying in touch with the surrogate and letting her see the benefits of her enormous efforts. Now, returning home. Well, of course, for American couples having children in the US, the new family can return home as soon as the birth certificate is issued, which is usually just a few days. But for international couples, the baby will need to apply for citizenship and a passport in order to travel home with you. Right? That process can be complicated. And some countries are friendly towards surrogacy, and the baby can easily apply for a passport at the local consulate. And other countries are unfriendly towards surrogacy, and they make the process quite difficult or impossible in some cases. And your agent can arrange for a local birth certificate and the baby's birth registration. In many countries where surrogacy is not fully regulated, will require the child's birth certificate to include the name of the birth mother, right, the surrogate, as well as the genetic father. Without the name of the birth mother, the consulate may not issue a passport. Now, once the birth certificate is issued and the baby is released from the hospital, intended parents must personally apply for a passport and citizenship papers. Consulates of some countries may also ask for affidavits from the clinic, from the surrogate, from the hospital. A DNA test is usually required, and check in advance with your consulate if the DNA test has to be performed by any specific lab. And some consulates will require the surrogate to appear in person to testify that she's waiving her parental rights voluntarily. Now, please note that the embassy or consulate will require the parents to submit the paperwork in person, right? Often, with a personal interview and possibly even with the baby. The agent's role is to guide you and assist you with this paperwork. If the surrogate is required to appear at the embassy or consulate, your agent will make the arrangements for her time and to travel and accompany her. But it is ultimately the parent's responsibility to make sure that the baby applies adequately and is approved for citizenship and his passport. Now, I hope this video series has been useful in explaining how surrogacy works and to help you navigate your own surrogacy journey. There are also other videos on a variety of topics related to your surrogacy journey, its costs, its procedures. And of course, you can always find information in the surrogacy guide at sensiblesurrogacy.com, or you can send us a note to ask a question of one of our consultants. Either way, we are available to guide you through your surrogacy journey, and just let us know how we can help.